powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, and it is brought to you by Prop Swap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bet and take your profit. Find out how at PropSwap.com. Download the Prop Swap app today. Andrew DiCecco is in today. Our looks at the division previews continue today. We look at the NFC South, which is a very interesting one. Of course, defending Super Bowl champions reside here. This one has changed champions over and over and over again. The Saints, the Falcons, the Panthers, and the Bucs. Andrew DiCecco has been doing a great job on breaking these down, and we'll take a look at the NFC South today here on the Sports Bash. What's going on, Andrew?
Hey, Mike, how you doing, man? I'm just trying to stay cool.
Oh, man, it is a hot one out there, and I know that we're getting close to football, and people are looking forward to that. These have been great. These have been a lot of fun, taking a look at the deeper, at all four teams in each division here. So let's keep it going. The Atlanta Falcons finished fourth in the NFC South last season, and this is a team that traded away Julio Jones, trying to go for a little bit of a new look. Matt Ryan, though, is back. He's got a couple of interesting weapons with a former first-round pick, Calvin Ridley, a new first-round pick, a new toy in Kyle Pitts. So what do we think this Atlanta offense is going to look like in 2021?
I think it's going to be very explosive. I really I liked Arthur Smith as a head coaching prospect for Philadelphia. I thought that they had a lot of young pieces there, but it's a great fit with the Atlanta Falcons when you look at the pieces that they have in place. I really like Calvin Ridley. He's a fantastic route runner. I think he's really going to thrive as being the top target. Obviously, Julio Jones is no longer there, but Calvin Ridley has the skill set and the ability to take that mantle as the top receiver in that offense. They also have Olamide Zaccheaus, who is an undersized receiver who was undrafted a couple years ago out of Virginia. I saw his pro day. Very shifty, quick guy, solidly built. He's someone that sort of emerged last season when he had his opportunities. He's going to be a slot receiver, sort of a gadget type of player. He's going to see some increased snaps, and then also Russell Gage as well there. And they also drafted Frank Darby from Arizona in the 6th round. He wasn't someone that saw a ton of volume at Arizona, but he is a vertical threat and has the potential to sort of take the top off of defenses once he gets his footing. I don't necessarily think he's going to be a factor right away, but they do have a lot of young weapons there at Matt Ryan's disposal. And then we mentioned Kyle Pitts. I think Kyle Pitts is going to be something of a Darren Waller type player. He is essentially going to be the number 2 receiver in that offense and just can do so many different things. A line out wide, be a vertical threat from the tight end position, create yards there for the catch, be a red zone guy, just an explosive athlete, and was one of my favorite players in the 2021 draft.
Yeah, and one position that we didn't really talk much about is the running back position there. This is a spot that for years, they had a couple of different backs there that were productive, Coleman, and right now you're looking at a veteran guy like Mike Davis. So do we anticipate the run game being a factor for the Falcons? And not to mention, their offensive line has been a big problem.
Yeah, it's going to be a committee approach. Obviously, Mike Davis is not a feature running back in the NFL. He's a volume runner, but it's going to be a committee approach. Obviously, they have Allison there, Quadri Allison from Pitt. He's another guy that can see a handful of carries. He's built more like a bowling ball. They don't necessarily have someone that's going to take the reins there. They have a couple of undrafted free agents who I like in Caleb Huntley and Javian Hawkins, but no one really that is going to emerge and take that job, clear cut, take that job. So it's going to be more of a balanced approach. And they have a lot of between the tackle bulldozers in there. So there's going to be some red zone opportunities for those guys to thrive. But, other than that, you're going to see they have a couple of gadget guys. I mentioned Olamide Zaccheaus, and Cordell Patterson, I believe, is also there. He took some snaps out of the backfield and at his stops over his career. So you saw him with the Bears and with the Vikings, of course. So he's going to be another option there.
Yep, we'll see with that offense without Julio Jones. They do still have Calvin Ridley there, a former first-round pick, so as Kyle Pitts as well. So it should be interesting to see the evolution of that. Arthur Smith, the new head coach. Go to their defense. Grady Jarrett is obviously a big name there, still one of the better defensive tackles in the league. Dante Fowler is a name that people will recognize, but this is a defense that might have some problems.
Yeah, they're going to struggle a little bit. So they're going to be able to score, I believe, but they're not going to be able to keep pace with a lot of the teams in their division. And when you look at what they have on defense, you mentioned Grady Jarrett. Grady Jarrett is still criminally underrated for his position. He's an outstanding player, can defend the run, and is an interior rusher. He can do it all. But around him, you mentioned Dante Fowler. He is such a streaky player. He's bounced around quite a bit in the league. Deion Jones is a solid linebacker. I like what he brings, but again, he is not necessarily someone who I consider a bona fide stud at the position. Solid, but not a stud. Olakun, the other linebacker they have there, he was their 2018 late round pick. He's someone who I really like, and I think he was dangled either last year or the year before in potential trade conversations. But he's someone who I think has really started to turn the corner. He was a raw player when he came out. And then when you look at the secondary, they have a safety in Jalen Hawkins, who I really liked. He's from Cal. He came in the draft last year as a fourth-round pick. I really liked him. I thought that he would be a candidate for the Eagles, who really needed some safety help. But it was great value for the Falcons there. He really stepped in and made some plays. And then Isaiah Oliver is a corner who has sort of flown under the radar, very athletically gifted, but never really took the next step in his progression. He's there as well, and Kendall Sheffield. So it's a very inexperienced secondary, and I can't believe I forgot A.J. Terrell. A.J. Terrell is there as well, but it's a very young secondary that I think that it's going to get exposed in certain areas.
Yeah, I would agree with that assessment. Andrew DiCecco, Football at 4, looking at the NFC South. Let's go to Carolina. Third in the NFC South last year, change at quarterback. Out is Teddy Bridgewater. In is Sam Darnold. So let's start there. What do we envision Darnold looks like with this offense in Carolina?
Well, I think with Matt Rule and the offensive coordinator Joe Brady, I think there's going to be a much more innovative, imaginative offense than what he was used to with Adam Gase and that sort of. It was just such a stagnant offense there, and he battled injuries, and guys around him were going down and never really had. They brought back Demaryius Thomas, who was on the last leg of his career. Outside of Jamison Crowder, they never really had a significant weapon that could get the job done. Le'Veon Bell never panned out for them. So they weren't very equipped for him to sort of maximize the skill players around him. But I think now when you look at what he has DJ Moore, he has Robbie Anderson. David Moore is an underrated wide receiver. He came over from Seattle. And they have some of those guys there. Shi Smith was a late-round pick from South Carolina. I think he's going to be a dynamic weapon out of the slot. Undersized guy, but can do a lot of different things. Take the ball out of the backfield, get him on the move. He's someone that has a lot of explosive traits there. So I like the weapons that he has. But the tight end position is sort of lacking. Dan Arnold is very athletically gifted, but he really has never been a focal point of an offense. He's going to be probably the de facto starter there. Ian Thomas is also there, but he's been given a lot of opportunities. He never really stepped up and snatched that role. So, I do like his receiving options, but not necessarily at the tight end position.
Well, obviously last year they had some injuries with Christian McCaffrey. How much will they lean on him, and what kind of part of the offense do you think he will be coming off the injury problems that he had? He's a smaller guy.
Yeah, he's a smaller guy, but I think now that he's had some time to recover, I think you're going to see him go back to being the Christian McCaffrey of old. He's going to be a focal point of the offense along with DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. And they really are going to have to lean on him in certain areas, especially as a pass catcher out of the backfield. You talk about what he brings to the offense, such a dynamic weapon out of the backfield. You can line him up in the slot and do so many different things with him. And I also forgot to mention Terence Marshall, the receiver who they drafted in the second round to complement Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore and David Moore. So, they do have a number of weapons, but I do think that Christian McCaffrey is going to be leaned on heavily in the passing game as well.
Yeah, they also got Hubbard in the Oklahoma State kid in the draft as well. We'll see how they utilize him, if they mix him in to take some of the –
Oh, right. Yeah, they did.
Offensive line, obviously – they have some issues on that side of the ball as well. which is part of a lot of the reasons these teams struggle. We always keep coming back to the offensive line issues there for that offense, so we'll see. On defense, this is where Matt Rule is kind of known for. He's got some interesting names now on this defense side of the ball. One is Jeremy Chin, who a lot of Eagle fans wish was wearing midnight green. J.C. Horn, they made that selection in the first round. A little bit of a surprise for some people. Hassan Reddick was a guy that had a little bit of a different role. We'll see what they end up doing with him in their defense there. So this defense, Shaq Thompson, they've got some interesting names here.
This is going to be one of the best defenses in football within the next year or so because they have so much youthful talent and guys with tremendous upside. I mean, Brian Burns, Bravian Roy, the defensive tackle, he was one of my favorite day 3 prospects last year in the draft, dominated the Shrine Bowl. He's an undersized, chubby defensive tackle, but he plays with outstanding leverage and is a good interior rusher. So I think that that was a good find for them. They have him there. They have Davion Nixon from Iowa, another day 3 guy from this year's class. Derek Brown is there from last year. He was the first-round pick. They have Gross Matos from Penn State. They have Shaq Thompson. They have Denzel Perryman. And then when you look at the secondary, they have J.C. Horn and Jeremy Chin. I mean, that could be one of the best duos, the best young duos that any secondary has in football right now.
All right, that is the Carolina Panthers in the NFC South. Let's go to the New Orleans Saints, who finished first in the division last year, but they're going to have a different look, Andrew, and I guess it's going to start with what will that quarterback competition look like?
Yeah, and I was actually asked this today. It's funny, but I think that Jameis Winston's going to win that job. Taysom Hill is too raw of a passer. He got exploited even against the Eagles in the latter stages of that game. He just does not have – he's not a consistent enough passer, can't win from the pocket. He's a flighty quarterback. He's too willing to elude the pocket with his legs and doesn't necessarily go through his progressions. And just I don't think that is a solid plan for them moving forward. I think you take your lumps with Jameis Winston, who we know is willing to throw the ball up there, and he's also going to turn the football over quite a bit. That's just been his MO throughout his career, but I think he gives them the best chance of winning from the quarterback spot. And he's going to have Michael Thomas there. He's going to have Traquan Smith there. And Deontay Harris, who's one of my favorite wide receivers in football, great story, undrafted free agent out of Assumption College, a Division III player, very small, shifty player, good punt returner. So he's going to be there as well, undersized player, but I think he's going to have an elevated role this year. But this isn't going to be the Saints of old, that explosive offense. It's going to be Alvin Kamara, and it's going to have to be a group effort to sort of move the football and score points.
Yep, it should be interesting. Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, they got some weapons there, but we'll see how the quarterback is able to utilize them. Good offensive line, Armstead, Ramczyk, they're pretty good there. Pete's a pretty good guard as well. Cesar Ruiz, McCoy, so they're pretty good up front. We'll see what that offense and how it changes.
Ramczyk's one of the best offensive tackles in football. And Ruiz, they're solid on the offensive line.
Yep, and we'll see how their offense changes with a full offseason without Drew Brees. Go to their defense, which, for years was kind of the weak point, and then it slowly started to kind of come over. Would you say that the defense is now going into the season as a good one?
Yeah, I would say so. I think it's going to be. I mean, you can make a case that outside of I really like what they did in building the Carolina Panthers defense, but I think the Saints aren't too far behind. When you have Cam Jordan, David Onyemata is a underrated tackle, not necessarily I think he's in his late 20s, but he was a good find in the 4th round for them, I believe. Marcus Davenport's there. Pete Warner is from Ohio State, the linebacker who they selected in the 2nd round, is going to be a plug-and-play guy. He's coming from a program known for producing pro-ready linebackers, and I think he's going to step right in there. It doesn't hurt that there's not a lot of competition there for him to sort of go up against this summer. So he's going to be on the weak side. It's more of a weak side linebacker. And then the secondary, Patrick Robinson still. They're a little older. You got Patrick Robinson and Malcolm Jenkins, of course, 2 former Eagles, and Marshawn Lattimore, who is still one of the premier cornerbacks in football. So they're going to have a veteran secondary, and they have some tools on the defensive line, which I like.
Yeah, that's the Saints defense, as you mentioned, a couple former Eagles in that secondary. Malcolm Jenkins, we'll see if he's as productive again. I mean, he had another good year last year for the Saints. And then the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They finished 2nd in the South last year. Remember, And then they went on, got hot and won the Super Bowl. So the defending Super Bowl champions reside in the NFC South. We know Tom Brady, but what does he have to work with? It almost seems that they're running it back to take a page from the old Sixers all season. Run it back. It seems like this offense is going to be almost the same.
Yeah, I still think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be the class of the NFC South. And like you said, they have a lot of continuity there on offense. They have Mike Evans. They have Chris Godwin. That's as good of a duo as you're going to find across the NFL. Jalen Darden was a player who they selected from North Texas. He's an undersized player, but he's a dynamic slot receiver, very shifty and quick, and knows how to create after the catch. He was a fourth-round pick this year. Scotty Miller's there. If you look at their offensive line, they have Donovan
Antonio
Smith
Brown, by the way. Antonio Brown.
Yeah, Antonio Brown. We'll see if he's able to sort of pick it up because he did all right for them, but they have a lot of competition there now. There's a lot of younger players there that are hungry and willing to step up and take that role over in the slot. Jalen Darden's going to give Antonio Brown might eat into his snaps a little bit. He was one of my favorite slot players in this draft, so I think that he's going to prove to be a sleeper as a rookie. And then you look at their offensive line: Ali Marpet from Hobart College, Donovan Smith, Alex Kappa from Humboldt State, and Tristan Wirfs. They have a really strong offensive line. And the running game, you still have the two-headed monster, the power running game with Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. So that offense is equipped to still be one of the most prolific in the league this year.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, they picked up Giovanni Bernard as another running back. They've got Gronk, they've got O.J. Howard, they've got Cameron Brate.
Yeah, and they also have Keyshawn Vaughn.
Yeah.
He was their third-round pick in 2020. So, they have a number of running backs in their stable.
They are loaded on the offensive side of the ball, but they might be equally as good on defense. A lot of big names: Sue, Vita Vea, Golston, Pierre-Paul, White, Levante David, Barnett, Antoine Winfield Jr. they bring on board. So this defense is no slouch.
No, they're going to be active up front. You mentioned Ndamukong Suh. He's a little bit longer in the tooth now, but he can still rush the passer and get after the quarterback, get him off his spot. Vita Vea is another player who is quietly become one of the best defensive tackles in football. A very versatile type of player. Jason Pierre-Paul's there. You mentioned Khalil Davis is a player who I really like from the Shrine Bowl last year. He was a valuable day 3 selection for them. Going to be a role player off the edge. Joe Tryon was a surprise first-round pick out of Washington. I think he has a lot of enticing tools, but I do think he's a little bit I don't know if he's going to be an early contributor. I think he's a little bit ways away from being a prominent fixture on that defense, but I think in time he's going to take over a lot of snaps from Jason Pierre-Paul towards the end of the season. Devin White, Levante David, Shaq Barrett, that linebacking, that second level they all boast different skill sets and they can rush the passer, they can defend the pass. And the secondary, I really like Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean. Those guys are very underrated defensive backs, and they proved that throughout last season. Antoine Winfield is there as well. So I really that's about as well-rounded of a defense as you're going to find, with a good mixture of young players and veterans.
Sure is. Andrew DiCecco, let's take a look then. How will that division that had the Saints, the Bucs last year, 1-2, how do you see this one finishing this season?
Well, I like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to still lead the division, and then I'm probably going to go, as much surprise, I'm going to go Atlanta Falcons. I like Matt Ryan. I like the new head coach, Arthur Smith. I think he's going to be an innovative and take advantage of some of the weapons that they have there. Then I'm going to go Carolina. I really think that they're going to be a force in the next year or so, like I said, but I still think they're a little young on the defensive side of the ball to really make their mark this season, but they're going to be a force in the coming years. And then I think finishing last is going to be the New Orleans Saints, and that's primarily chalked up to the quarterback position. I just don't think they have enough there to get it done.
All right. Andrew DiCecco, our look at the divisions continue. Andrew will be back on Tuesday, and when we do that, we will look at the NFC North, another very intriguing one because we don't know if one Aaron Rodgers will be in that division or somewhere else. And if he's not, that one becomes really up for grabs, you would think. And then on Friday when Andrew's back, we will look at the NFC East. And by the next time Andrew's back, the Eagles will be at training camp, and we'll have all that coverage for you here on Football at 4. Andrew DiCecco at DiCecco NFL on Twitter, and, of course, here on Football at 4. Andrew, appreciate it, man.
You got it, man. Have a good one.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun listening. Man, he has so much depth on some of these guys and these rosters and these teams.